inviting people into a space where we're going to hold this story.
Love your art. Did you know a lot of the riders were actually women wearing beards?
Yes.
Which gives me such like Monty Python vibes. It's amazing.
Oh. What if Muppets did the Easter story?
If that's all we're looking for, that's what we're going to find. Yeah.
I'm looking for pie. Hello, welcome to the oasis of live streams and podcasts. No, not the drink, nor the band, but the green floral foam, an unassuming lump that has plenty of space to place interesting flowers and leaves, and once fully saturated, has the ability to prolong the foliage until it dies. This is another episode of Faith in Geekery, and my name is Mark, and this is...
Tom.
Hello, Tom. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Oh, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm good. Glad to be here. It's end of another day, but good to be back on screen, back on the airwaves, as it were. So yeah, how are you doing?
All right, thank you. All right. I've enjoyed some lovely time off. I'm back to work as of tomorrow, and we'll see what delights are in store once I return. We should also say Happy Pride Month. It is the beginning of Pride Month to all. So I was about to say sisters, misters, whoever, however you identify and otherwise, welcome. You are welcome here. Yeah, what have we been up to, folks? There's no one currently viewing, but what geeky things have we been up to since we last gathered?
Wow. I mean, and I would take that opportunity. If there's nobody actually listening at the moment, there will be people listening later via the podcast. So please don't be afraid to hop on the Discord and let us know what geeky things you have been up to via the Discord, which is there and which has got a great community. So do join us there. Me, myself, what have I been up to? I've finished off. People who've been following along and have been keeping on the Discord as well will be aware I've been playing for the last 6 months or so in a Warhammer 40,000 crusade. That's wrapping up just at the moment. I've played my last game. It's been great fun. It's been a useful way of getting to know new people in my new area, but it's also just been great playing. I've been checking up. We've now got more and more details of the new edition of Warhammer 40,000 that's coming out. Box set goes on, the new launch box goes on pre-order this coming Saturday. So they've been releasing rules, mainly because the rules had already partly leaked. So they've been releasing those so that we could see them properly. And I've been reading some Warhammer 40,000 set literature as well. Book by the author Dan Abnett, who I think is Games Workshop's best author, because he doesn't just work for Games Workshop, he also does he's worked on Doctor Who stuff, he's worked on Mr. Men animation, he's done work for both Marvel and DC, so you know he's well experienced in these things. So he's written a novel which is set in a hive world, kind of billions of people living in one city. So been reading that as well. It's all been kind of Warhammer 40,000 recently for me. What about you?
I have been doing some 3D printing, which I might mention a little bit later on, which isn't always just the 3D printing. It's all the other bits associated with 3D printing as well. As well as doing some sanding and filling of certain kind of 3D prints as well. And then I've been watching a lot of box sets and bits and pieces. I say box sets, series. Do they ever come in a box anymore? I don't think so. But I watched blasted through The Burrows, which is a Netflix thing, which is Alfred Milano. And what's her name? Yes, I should have made up a note of all those details. But yeah, it's really good. It's like Stranger Things meets, I was about to say the Golden Girls, but yeah, like a retirement home
Okay. Yeah.
facility. And yeah, it was really good and really,
Cool.
really very much kind of 1950s vibes.
Mm-hmm.
But it is meant to be set kind of in modern day life, but you know,
okay.
very rarely any mobile signal. You know,
Right.
I think it's a shortcut for a lot of places to kind of go, oh yeah, it is modern day, but there's no phone signal, so mobile phones are not helpful. So yes, that was good. As well as I've just finished Spider Noir as well, which is the latest Amazon offering in the Spideyverse.
Yeah.
So yes. Anything else to add before we move on, folks? You can comment what you've been up to geekily.
I've been trying to think. No, think I've covered mine. We've been doing other stuff as well, away from the geeky stuff. But yeah.
In that case, then we shall go to the news.
This is the Faith in Geekery news, broadcast to your home and around the world.
So the news, we should start off with the Pope, as we all should. No, Pope Leo's Magnificat Humanitas, talking about AI and how we should, how it must serve us and not the other way around, and has quite a bit to say about it. Not that I've actually read it technically, I've just been grabbing the headlines and hearing much about it. Also had an interesting narrative conversation concourse about the Doctor Who Christmas special, and I think it was provoked by the press going, oh, we've not heard any news, are they having to cancel it? And so Russell T Davies has come out going, no, it has been recorded, we are, you know, we're getting ahead with it, but we just haven't released anything yet, so time will tell, you know, and we will drop something in the coming weeks. So I feel as if it's because of a backlash that they're kind of responding to it. And so it just feels a little bit, it's good news, but it just feels a little bit tinged with grumpiness.
Interesting.
But I think earlier on today it was reported that Idris Elba has now been knighted to be Sir Idris Elba. There is also Legend of Vox Machina season 4 dropping tomorrow. That's the 3rd of June. And on Settlers of Catan, which I now have followed, on their socials, they are teasing a collaboration between themselves and Bluey, and I'm just really intrigued whether this is going to be sort of like an all-age, do you know what I mean, like a family friend or a toddler-friendly version of Settlers of Catan, but with Bluey-related pieces. I don't know, but yeah, that is coming soon. A special announcement with Bluey and Catan, which
does sound interesting.
It's just, it sounds wacky, but let's see what that means. There is also an official name for the next Minecraft movie, which is a Minecraft movie squared, and I think it what's her name? I've forgotten this already. It stars Kirsten Dunst as the female character in it, alongside a lot of the reoccurring cast. So that's quite fun. On our Discord, Purple Plushie has mentioned about, and I've got to read this carefully, the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, and there are some big winners, which are a Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, and My Hero Academia, as well as others. And they've been really into the Apothecary Diaries, Spy X Family, etc. So there's a lot of the anime awards. So that seems quite fun, but that is completely out of my depth, so I have no idea. And I think that is the end of Geeky News.
This is the Faith in Geekery news, broadcast to your home and around the world.
So I should have said, do any of those things strike you interesting or otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, certainly in church circles, the Pope talking about AI was a big thing, and interesting to get some theological perspective on that. It's not because theologians haven't been thinking about it, but, you know, when the Pope says stuff, the world media tends to be a bit more in tune with what's being said in terms of being aware of it rather than other stuff. But I know there's thinking around AI in other parts of the life of the church. I know our own Faith and Order Committee in the Methodist Church has been doing some thinking around it. So interesting to have that thinking out there, and that clear kind of direction of travel of saying that it's not that AI is good or bad, but that it can be used in various ways, and we need to be careful about how it's used, rather than simply saying, humans good, AI bad, but saying that this is a tool, this is a creation, this is something we've worked with, created, but we need to be aware of how we use it and be careful about how it's used. I think that's in some ways it's an obvious way forward, but it's probably some wisdom in that. Just saying AI bad is just not really going to be heard, I don't think. So I think, and then the Bluey thing, I have two nieces, both of whom have grown up with Bluey. I've got a grandson now who, even at the age of 1, knows who Bluey is and likes listening to the Bluey theme tune and things. So it'd be interesting to see where they go. I just can't see where they're going with it, but it's not the 1st of April, so it's clearly not an April Fool. So interesting in the sense of I just really am intrigued to see where they're going with that, because that will be interesting.
Yeah, I should mention, because we mentioned AI, that I think we shall be doing a Faith and Geekery episode on that at a later date, but that date is still to be penciled into the diary, so that should be fun and interesting. And again, it's just kind of interesting that kind of where, dare I say, capitalism is, and where we should maybe our consciences be, hear various kind of information about how much water each kind of AI search is doing. Google just this week has jumped across solely to AI, and so a lot of people have taken up kind of Ecosia, or is it Go Duck or something. People are voting with their feet, because actually people are a bit uncertain about it, and it'll just be interesting to talk through some of this. And I am aware that some practices, some churches have kind of dived across to AI, and I've got to say, kind of frequenting kind of Comic-Cons and places like that, where we hear very much the other side of it, of kind of independent artists really feeling got at, because it's taking away their livelihoods. That we should be cautious and wary of it, and and people are kind of saying, look, this, if you are caught vending any AI stuff, then we won't be having you. So it's very interesting of kind of what society is saying about it broadly, and how much the church and other organizations are willing to dip their feet into it, and how much do they get involved. But it's a tricky subject, because I think you can't open anything device wise without coming to head with absolutely, with the paperclip 2.0 or whatever it is.
And it has technological, it does have technological benefits. I mean, if we're talking about another geeky subject, space exploration, the reality is that there are decisions that can be made by AI far faster than any human being could ever make it. And when you're trying to make decisions, to do with space maneuver, certainly with maneuvering into new atmospheres, some of those decisions need to be made very, very quickly. Actually, AI helps with that. There are tasks that can be done much more quickly with AI and such like, but it's where do we cross over into, where does that help become a hindrance? Where does that help stop us being as human as we can be? That famous thing of, technology is supposed to rid us of our menial tasks so we can be more creative. If all of the technology that we introduce, including AI, ends up taking away our creativity and just leaves us doing the menial tasks, is that really what we wanted it for?
No, indeed. Anyway, I think this is a good conversation for another time.
For another time.
It is good. Well, I need to do some research on it, because it's all about the generative AI, and is it quantitative AI and all that kind of malarkey, and so therefore it's important to be using the right speak, because otherwise I feel like my that kind of ways of which we can delve and debate and reflect on the use of these tools. So anything else, or shall we go to the the quiz.
Let's do the quiz.
I got questions. The quiz.
So paper, pencil, or devices at the ready. Question number 1. According to Google, how many official variations or broadly official variations of the pride flag are there? Are there A, just 1, B, over 10, C, over 20, or D, over 30? And in that regard, I think that's between 10 and 19, 20 and 29, or 30 onwards. Suddenly realizing the vagueness of that answer. So that's question number 1 again. According to Google, how many official variations of the pride flag are there? Is it just 1? Is it B, over 10, less than 20, over 20, less than 30, or over 30? Question number 2. Today on the 2nd of June is Tony Hadley's birthday, who's the lead vocalist for Spandau Ballet. Can you name one of their top 10 UK hits? I feel as if I know which one everyone's going to go with. But I thought it'd be nice. So I'll say that again. Today on the 2nd of June is Tony Hadley's birthday, lead vocalist for Spandau Ballet. Name one of their top 10 UK hits. Question number 3. Again, on the 2nd of June, 1875, Alexander Graham Bell transmitted the first sound into another room. What was that sound? Was it him saying, A, was it him saying, Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you? Was it B, ahoy? Or was it C, plucking a reed? So on the 2nd of June, 1875, Alexander Graham Bell transmitted the first sound into another room. What was the sound? Was it A, him calling, Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you? B, ahoy? Or C, plucking a reed? Question number 4. When beginning to 3D print, there is a model called Benchy that most users are encouraged to print. What is it? Is it A, a small dinosaur, B, a small boat, or C, a fidget spinner? So question number 4 again. When beginning to 3D print, there is a model called Benchy that users are encouraged to print. What is it though? Is it A, a small dinosaur, B, a small boat, or C, a fidget spinner? And finally, question number 5. Mentioned this already. Spider Noir has been released on Amazon Prime, but who plays the key role, the Spider? Is it A, Tom Holland, B, Tobey Maguire, or C, Nicolas Cage? So that's question number 5. Spider Noir has been released on Amazon Prime, but who plays the main character, the Spider? Is it A, Tom Holland, B, Tobey Maguire, or C, Nicolas Cage? So that is all 5 questions. Now for the answers. How do you think you've done so far, Tom?
Well, relatively confident on 3, he says. Yeah, I'm definitely not sure I've got the 5. If I've only got 2, I would be entirely shocked.
Okay. So question number 1, according to Google, how many official variants of the pride flag are there? It is D, over 30.
Okay,
they couldn't actually be they couldn't be as specific, and I kept on going through and I kept on finding different things, which is why I think it was the over 30, because there were at least 28 variants that I could easily find. But I was trying to find a more robust answer because I was wondering if there was an official one. But I think it's just expression, which is good and understandable. 2, Tony Hadley's birthday, lead vocalist for Spandau Ballet. Name one of their top 10 UK hits. Have you got one of those?
Gold.
Absolutely. You could have also had True, Chant number 1, Only When You Leave, To Cut a Long Story Short, Lifeline, I'll Fly For You, Muscle Bound, or Instinction. I would only have known Gold.
Yeah. I think that's the one that most people would have gone for.
But those are all top 10 hits. So I was quite surprised by that. That there's so many and yet only one known. on the 2nd of June 1875, Alexander Graham Bell transmitted the first sound into another room? Was it A, saying, Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you? B, ahoy, or plucking a reed? What did you put?
I put plucking a reed.
Is correct.
I went for it on the basis that come here, Mr. Watson, I want to see you is kind of the urban legend. Plus, it's related to a telephone, and you didn't say the first use of a telephone. You said the first sound. I thought, no. And then the ahoy, I know that's what Bell wanted to be the way you greeted one another on a telephone, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't the first thing said. So
you saw through my my multiple choice answer. Yeah, technically it's meant to be like the following year he actually uses kind of a phone device, or what we equate to a phone device, and says the Mr. Watson, come here, supposedly. So well done on that one, avoiding that. So well done. Then number 4, when beginning to print a 3D printer, what was the Benchy called?
It's a boat.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
I saw it.
Where
I was somewhere. Where was I? I was somewhere the other day. Somebody that's got a 3D printer. Oh, I was visiting friends during half term. Their lads got a 3D printer, and they had one where it was Benchy, and then on the roof of the little boat was another little boat, and on the roof of that was another little boat, so that it kind of all one model, but very. Yeah. But yes. My little headline this week says all the gear, no idea, because I do have a 3D printer, but I've never used it. But I do know that when I do set it up, the thing I need to do is print Benchy, and it's a boat. So
technically, I kind of went straight for a little minifigure. I avoided kind of Benchy, but it is quite nice just to kind of do something quite straightforward first, rather than too complicated. And I think, depending on what you have and your model and there is a lot of, there is sometimes tweaking and tinkering, which again is part of our conversation in a little while, but it's quite interesting. But for now, let's kind of finish the quiz. Spider Noir has been released on Amazon Prime, but who plays the main character, the Spider? What did you put?
Nicolas Cage.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And that is the end of the quiz. How did we do there, Tom?
I got 4. So
fantastic.
I got the one that I was not 100% certain on. I did manage one of those. I managed to get, but I was way off on the first one. I just felt like there was a bit of me that were like, well, over 30, that just seems too extreme. It feels like it's kind of like. So I went for over 10, but so I was way off on that one. But the others I did manage to get. So
well done. And so we now kind of move on to our topic for this evening, which is 3D printing and tinkering. And I think I kind of combined both of those things, because we can start off by talking about 3D printing, and then kind of moseying into general tinkering and kind of more of that, how we the art of tinkering and what that can help for us, be helpful, constructive, or otherwise. And I think over the years we kind of have all these kind of different hobbies that can entail tinkering of sorts. But I wanted to start off with 3D printing. That is something that I've been doing for a few years now, actually. And that yourself, you say that you've got the gear but no idea. And for those on podcasts, in the background there is a little Faith in Gekkery logo, which I've just got shown up on the camera as well. And basically I've gone from one kind of program to another program to actually to being on the printer bed of it. So it's like spliced. And so the first, 1/3 of the screen, or more than 1/3 of the screen, is something called Tinkercad, which is an online kind of browser program that you can create something which is very CAD based and otherwise. And then I've brought it into my splicing software, which takes a 3D object and kind of renders it into a file format and kind of precise way that the 3D printer can deal with it. And then it's actually on the bed and printed, because it's then been uploaded and has been created into a 3D format. It has been created. So I just kind of wanted to start off with that. I've got to say, it is one that I hadn't realised how much tinkering is required
Right.
involved with it from the very beginning of getting a flat pack box with the printer in and going, oh, okay, I've got to build this, do I? And through to kind of then building it and then having to level the bed because I didn't get a self-leveling one and things like that. And so you kind of have to kind of get introduced further and further. And initially I had a glass bed and things like that. So it was really kind of complicated, I thought. But as soon as you start printing something, you go, oh, I managed that. That's good. And you suddenly kind of going, oh, what else can I print? And you start kind of fishing down that kind of avenue of, oh, what next? Or how can this best help? I will say in the same breath, and just as we've talked a bit about AI, quite early on I was there kind of going, but I'm now bringing into something where I'm using plastic in a world where we're talking about recycling and otherwise. So I've not been as blasé as what I thought I would be.
Okay, that's interesting.
I think it's because I've wanted to be more intentional with what I've got, with how I've printed, and also kind of learning the limitations of printing with the plastic as well. And I have a filament fed one, so that's kind of a spool that comes through, heats it up, and kind of does a line at a time sort of thing, whereas you can get the resin beds where they kind of dip in and do almost a reverse Terminator. Terminator is a film for anyway. We won't go down that route. So it's an interesting kind of an interesting hobby, and what that kind of fits around other hobbies. So I've kind of enjoyed the D&D side of stuff, enjoyed doing cosplay stuff, and that's what I've been printing recently. In fact, it's actually for Jenny for her birthday, but also ahead of Comic-Con. We said about kind of doing, well, I won't mention it because it'll be the surprise, but it involves a helmet. And so it's a bigger kind of size stuff. And and kind of putting it all together and making sure it fits and works, and making sure that the seams are as noticeable requires a little bit more, again, tinkering and sanding and otherwise, and lots of glue and things like that. So it is kind of a rabbit hole kind of hobby. You start, but then also you kind of start looking around the house going, oh, if I just get a little thing that just, and then you kind of go, oh, I could always print that, couldn't I? And things like that. But it is just getting that right kind of balance of using it enough and enjoying it rather than it becoming the be all and end all. Very much again like the AI kind of conversation. But
that's interesting because we were it's interesting because I'm not so worried about the setup in that I got mine pre-used by somebody who was upgrading theirs in part of the gaming group that I'm part of. So they were looking to move on. So I got it at a very good price, but it's already put together. I moved it. It wasn't taken apart. In fact, it's got some upgrade parts which he printed for it. So it's got better lights for it and a riser for the lid so it doesn't get overheat and things, because it's an enclosed one rather than an open one. But it is a filament one. It's a plastic. I decided I really didn't want a resin one. It just that sounds way too much, and all the cleaning and everything. So I really decided in the end to get one because I wanted it for kind of printing things so that I could store tokens and dice and things for some of the games that I play. But of course, immediately I'm now thinking, oh, well, I could print some terrain items. And then there have been a couple of times when I've kind of it's occurred to me either at church or at home. And I thought, I could print something for that. And then we were out with, like I said, we were out with friends last week and we went out for dinner. And while we were sat in the pub, my friend and his son were sat there because they've got a robo mower and it needs a couple of parts, and so they were looking up parts so they could 3D print the parts for the robo mower rather than buy original parts that would have cost somewhat more money. So it's already struck me as one of those things that once it's up and running, I have every confidence I will make my money back on it and more by printing things I don't have to buy. But yeah, I just need to get going on it. But I'm partly wary to get going on it because I know that there'll be all that tinkering and, oh, well, I just need to get this right and I need to get that right. And I therefore I don't want to get going until I know I've got a good solid amount of time where I can just say, right, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm going to tinker around with, especially since at the moment the Wi-Fi signal in my hobby room is not great because we've had a new modem fitted. And it's had to be relocated further away from the hobby room, so the new one doesn't quite reach. So we've got to get some extenders. So I don't want to be trying to 3D print something from my computer down here and then discover that the signal dropped out in the hobby room and it didn't actually. It got half the STL file, not the rest of it. That's really not something I want. So yeah, there's a few things I need to iron out before I really get going on it, but. I have already, even without actually printing anything, I've already got to that point of seeing, oh yeah, well, I could just do this and I could just do that.
I think for me, I actually have like a little mini SD card, so it's a physical connection, so I don't have to worry about it. Technically, I think there was a USB connection, but my 3D printer is well and truly in the utility room behind a closed door, and because not only does it take a long time, but it also is a bit, well, I call it a zebra finch because it sounds like little birds kind of you know, like the old-fashioned dot matrix printer. Again, folks, do I mention that? How old that is, you know, but because actually it's a very similar technology of the kind of is it x-axis, the printer nozzle goes left to right, and the bed goes in the other axis of the Y, or is it Y and X? I can't remember which way around it is, and Z going upwards. And so it does kind of, it is very mechanical. And I have seen other people saying about actually they could change, if they remove the heating element, they could actually use the head as a kind of what's the word, a thingy line, a construction line of a process line of being able to fold things or move things and kind of automate it, but it looked a lot more complicated than just 3D printing. I was just there going, wow, or you could just shove it and do it yourself. But there are other ways of, as in literally shove it together. And I wasn't just being rude. But but there are kind of ways in which they kind of talk about adding extension-y bits to the 3D printer in order for the heated element to knock things off once it's done. So you could then try and do it as like a continuous line. There's also been kind of people who have like a continuous bed, so they can create even longer things. And it's just kind of with the programming that you kind of can program it. There's various ways and otherwise that you can kind of use that sort of technology, because it is just a CAD system. It is just kind of telling the computer where to move its arm to. So there are a bit more creative ways, but the main thing that we're talking about tonight is that 3D printing element. And I think when it works, I think it's amazing. You go, wow, gosh, I can create this and I can do that. The problem is when it doesn't work, and that's when you've got to start problem solving and working out what is stopping, why it's stopping, what the issue is. And once you've got it in place, that's hopefully a couple of the problem solving bits that once you've got it leveled and otherwise, that's great. But if you've got no filament coming through, you then kind of go, why isn't it coming through, and things like that, which again, it can lead to that tinkering of problem solving. And it's usually filament related in some sort or other. The reel getting trapped, and therefore it physically can't pull any more through, that kind of thing. Anyway, so that's kind of, 3D printing, I think, you can do the little things. I've also realized recently, what you'll see in the background is I've actually got blue decorators tape on there, and that is a solution to solving some of the cohesion problem, because when you've got a bed that you want it to stick on whilst it's hot, you then want to release it when it's cold. And therefore you've got to work out how do you do that effectively. You can get some glue that does that, but I had mixed results. Currently, I've got a metal plate which you can kind of pull off, then flex and kind of pull it away, and that tends to do a good job. And with smaller makes and models, I just do a little bit of glue on there, and otherwise it's fine. However, for the bigger builds, I've found the big decorators tape, and you literally just line it all up as like a very thin layer, make sure it's no overlap, and that has been the best and most effective way of giving it something to hold on to when it needs to be. And it's special tape that withstands the heat as well, because the bed can kind of get up to like 90 degrees or higher, and the plastic itself goes up to 190 or beyond, or 200, up to you really. But yeah, it's quite fascinating, and there are plenty of places online that you can download stuff as well. So there are people who have kind of thought, how to go and otherwise. But as I mentioned, Tinkercad, that was another website where I could use and do my own thing completely and utterly. But again, this is then kind of entering into the tinker zone, and I'm sure I'm boring some people through doing the 3D printing process. But there are ways to do it, and you can do the bigger projects as well as the smaller ones. And again, you're just limited about the physics of how you put it on a bed and whether you need to add supports, which again your splicing software can do. And splicing can take a very big thing and cut it down into parts so you can put it onto your printer bed, or you can kind of help automatically add supports, so you can kind of create things that are like overarching or otherwise, or very little delicate little kind of figures and things. So there's a whole variety of things. But again, I think this is where that direction, unless you want to talk a bit further, or talk, because I feel as if I'm doing all the talking, about 3D printing, is this kind of the art of tinkering. But is there anything else you want to say about 3D printing?
Yeah, 3D printing, because in my kind of hobby area of what I might find myself initially printing, one of the areas that interests me, mentioning about that design stuff, is the ease now, and it's kind of an ethical thing relating to kind of leaning into kind of our faith perspective and things, is the ease now, and this is partly also linked to AI, but it's about 3D printing, the ease with which it is now possible, and depending on the scale of the model, either resin wise or filament wise, to very quickly produce models, particularly models, gaming pieces, that match copyrighted IP without needing to pay the prices for the IP. So it was very noticeable very recently. GW, whose prices people would note are generally very high. There were
Games Workshop.
Games Workshop. Sorry, Games Workshop. Their prices are very high. There are those who would defend it, those who would disagree with it. It is what it is. They are high. They recently previewed one or two models, and it was noticeable that even before they were on pre-order, there were STLs floating around of those models, which had clearly been done by AI scanning of the available 2D pictures to work out what it would look like in 3D. Now, they might not have been, if you eventually got hold of the real thing, you might discover that they weren't quite exactly the same, but they were close enough. And even me recently, there's a ginormous model that James Workshop produce of a transport for Space Marines, which is only available in their specialist resin. It's a very big model. It costs over £400. I would really love to have one in my collection just for fun games, but I'm not paying 400 odd quid for a model which I'm just going to use very rarely for silly fun games where it's really daft to put that size of model on the table, but it's fun. But I've looked on a few of the sites, and alongside those people who are genuinely offering a proxy model, it is not the GW model at all, but it's the same kind of dimensions and it would fit the need. There are those offering STLs of what is clearly that model. And and so you'd buy the STL for a very minimal amount of money, and then you could print it. And at that size of model, you could do it in filament. You know, normally models you're talking resin, but you could do it on an FDM printer at that size. You'd have to sand it down for some of the lines and things, you know. And you genuinely find yourself asking, I know that's IP, that technically is theft, but I'm never going to pay 400 odd quid for it. So who's going to know? Who's
the
going to
moral
know?
ambiguity?
But 3D printing has enabled, with then on top of that ability to AI scan 2D pictures to work out what the actual 3D would look like, does make it very, and so it brings into question a lot, you know. So it's noticeable that a lot of the smaller companies within the hobbying world either have moved into offering 3D files alongside, well, if you don't have a printer, we do produce models, but hey, if you've got a printer, you can buy the STLs off us. Or offering, you know, really keeping their prices down on their models, because they know that if they price too high, people will simply move to 3D printing. So it's having that real interesting impact on the hobby, on other hobbies alongside just 3D printing, some of which does have some ethical implications.
What should be said is that also kind of a lot of these shop models and otherwise are likely to be kind of mold set and kind of created under higher pressure. So my son was asking about kind of, could we do Lego? And I was like going, yeah, but it's not going to be the same quality because it's just a different process, and therefore it's not going to be as good. I have seen somebody create a full-size Lego Christmas tree using and I was like going, no, that is quite fun, but again reflecting on how much filament it would use, and otherwise they're going, that would be an expensive tree, but you do it for the novelty of having a Lego Christmas tree. So it is fascinating, but again, it does kind of, when you have these things accessible at home and the files are just a little few megabytes here there, you know, it does kind of raise that quandary and the IP and kind of the ethics of if it is achievable, would you make it an otherwise, which is fascinating. But you know, so I think that's an interesting thing, and but again, it is something that I hadn't realized, that you can kind of just spend as long doing the STL files, the kind of digital files, and tinkering and making. I've also dabbled with augmented reality, as I've shared before. And you can use the same files or export it in different ways. So you can do something in an augmented reality space and then send it to the printer and do it in a very physical space. And so there's this wonderful overlap of both physical and digital, and how it is realized into a physical thing, which I think is fascinating. But also there is something here that even when you have the file, even when the printer's working, it takes a long time. So a little figure can take about 50 minutes, depending on the speed and the detail. It could take longer. And therefore, there is something here about, and again, this entering into more of the tinkering side of things, of waiting, and you've put something, you know, you're waiting for it to be created. And there is something here about that kind of reflecting on what you've made and waiting for it to be made, just like in any other creative project, whether it's waiting for the paint to dry, for the cake to rise, or all those sort of things. And you can tinker that once you've made something. Do you ever finish it? You know, when are you happy with it to be well and truly done? And again, a 3D model isn't just the 3D printing. Usually there's also an element of, is it ready to go? Do I need to paint it? Do I need to, you know, is it ready to run with immediately? And even with like a cog for a spare part, you're there going, actually, would it be robust enough? And therefore, do I need to coat it in resin or make it more robust, or that kind of stuff? So it's just a fascination with kind of just something that is hopefully straightforward.
but which is offers up that. Yeah, I think for me, what really interests me is that thing of, so you've got this thing, whether you've created the file yourself or whether you've bought it, you've got it all there, you're running it, it's printing, it's printing, you can see it's printing, but now there's this time where you've got to wait because it's there, but it's not there, if you get what I mean. And what do you do with that time in the meantime? And I guess for me, what particularly interests me there is where the time is, where they take hours and hours or even days to print. It's not really tinkering at that point. I mean, you can go and live the rest of your life, right? But although there will always be something in the back of the mind thinking, has it gone wrong? Do I need to go and check on it so that it just check it's still working all right? But I think it's those shorter ones where the time is not quite so long that you can really go and just immerse yourself in the rest of life while it's happening. But it's long enough that you can't, it's not, immediate. And so there is that thing of, well, do you just sit and wait and watch the pot boil, which, always takes longer than you think it will? Or do you do something, but something which you can quickly do? And do you do something which is also related to it, or do you go and do something else? I relate it to the time I probably tinker most is probably actually when I'm sounds strange, when I'm making coffee.
Okay.
Because the various different things that I do to make coffee, the grinding of the beans, then especially if I'm having a pour over where there's the need to wait for the kettle to get to the right temperature, I have a kettle that sets to the right temperature, but then pouring over and letting some of it go through before I do the next bit, and all of that means I do have 30-second to a minute breaks between the various steps. Well, there's no point me leaving the kitchen at that point, but also, so I'll be tinkering by putting a few of the things away from the dishwasher, or moving things into the dishwasher, or washing up some of the recycling that needs washing out before it goes in the recycling bin that's been sat by the sink, or whatever, moving things around the kitchen because I need to fill that time, but I don't want to move too far away from what I'm doing because otherwise, things will go wrong. So but yeah, just that kind of filling time doing something.
And I think in today's age, we're quite used to picking up our phones, and I think that can be easily a distraction. It can be kind of just entertaining you, giving you a bit of quick dopamine hit, but actually it prevents you from doing the other tinkering bits. And so, as I said about doing the 3D printing, I've been doing some sanding and filling, and I've also been learning about what to use to fill it, to use it, and otherwise. And I'd actually stumbled across someone suggesting using epoxy resin with bicarbonate of soda, and so that kind of allows it to be a more filler substance without it deactivating or affecting the acidity of the epoxy resin and stopping that from hardening. But it's also fine enough that it can create into a paste that you can kind of becomes a bit more like a transparent toothpaste. So you can apply it better, but it keeps its consistency, then hardens, and then you can kind of dry it, kind of level it up, sandpaper it away. But I've been finding that I've been doing that more in between the gaps and tinkering, and then leaving that dry, then returning back to it, doing something else. I also tried some other putty stuff as well, and I was like, oh, this is rubbish, but I'm glad I've given it a go, kind of cleaned some of it off. And again, I think for me, I think I've actually rediscovered that kind of how I like to tinker and ponder and potter and do little bits, and it kind of creates that kind of, it gives you that completion element of life. And sometimes when in work where you're just doing things that you don't see a cycle or you don't see the end kind of thing, or it feels quite as if you're still doing the same repetitive things, to be able to complete something and go, oh, this has worked, or doing it this way, or trying to problem solve in new and more unique ways, it's just quite nice to do. And I think it's more freeing in my mind as well to be able to physically do, like with Lego, like with kind of painting miniatures. An evening kind of with the TV on is one thing, but actually I can get distracted by my devices. But actually having a mini to paint or something to sand or something just to tweak and play with, actually makes a lot more sense. It feels more fulfilling for me rather than something on its own. And gotta say, my son is also heading in that direction. I got a really cheap robot vacuum cleaner that I got from a second-hand shop, and we realized within minutes it was rubbish. But my son was there going, could I play with it? So he's kind of taken to pieces an old drone that kind of died on its first kind of launch. It was a lovely Father's Day present, but it really died quickly. It only went up and then kind of couldn't manage coming down. So that was kind of, but I kept onto it. And then he's played with that and the other thing. And again, so our table has various, has had, I've tidied it up now, tinkering, tidying things away. But again, it is that lovely art of seeing how things work and kind of building something, working on something. And dare I say, there is that kind of point of freeing your mind up whilst you're doing something very practical.
That
allows you to just kind of let your mind wander, or to just have a bit of downtime. But
I was thinking with the coffee, that because obviously that's in the morning, it might be the first thing I do once I've got up properly, etc. And actually, that's often the time when my brain gets the opportunity to kind of think about some of the things in the day. And if I've got up stressed about the number of things that I've got, that's the point at which my brain will go, okay, just get this and this done. If nothing else gets done, at least you've got those things done. And actually, then you find you get those things done, and then actually things feel a bit better, and then you can get on to do the next thing on the list. But there is that sense of, and then also, in other things, if I'm hobbying, which is not in many ways tinkering, it will be focused, but it's there where I might be painting a model or models plural, and my brain at the same time, I'll have music on and my brain will be going, that song's my next Friday fix, that's my next thing that I'm going to write about, and this is what I'm going to write about it. For those that little advertising plug for those that aren't aware, Friday Fix is a blog, publishes every Friday with a reflection on a secular piece of music from a faith, generally from a faith perspective, but sometimes quite subtle, sometimes very kind of not subtle, but generally secular music reflections, published every Friday. It's just called Friday Fix. I'm one of the writers.
Can you drop the link? Can you drop the link in the Discord? Or
I will drop the link in the Discord. I will make sure I do that. And I'll often be doing that while I'm doing something, while I'm physically doing something else, because that tinkering or tinkering adjacent activity gives me my brain the space to do that.
And I think in a world where we are always constantly on the go with things, or we kind of feel that compulsion to be, at least, I think to be able to stop and pause and have those quiet moments just allow us to take in the universe, to take in the surroundings, to have the little moments of satisfaction of whether it's a perfect brew or a work in progress brew, or to kind of problem solve a broken device or otherwise. I think there's just something kind of very grounding, and a very grounding activity in that. And for mental health also, I think those quiet moments in the morning, I think for me, is when I feel closest to God, of that before the busyness of the day comes in.
Definitely.
I've walked away from the radio. There will be, I will kind of call for my smart speaker to kind of bring it through to the kitchen eventually. But I do kind of rest in that moment of just being able to just be in that space without the urgency. And I think, again, coming full circle to the 3D printer and things, sometimes you just got to let it go. And whether it's successful or if it's a failure, in that moment you press the button in good faith and go, let's see this in 17 hours. And usually I will pop in. I will genuinely pop in and go, oh, how's it going? Oh, still working. That's good. Carry on. But there are times where I'll go, I've got a busy day. I'll see you in 17 hours or however long, or, leave it going overnight. And you're just there going, over to you.
Yep.
You know, and I think that is kind of a good thing and a healthy thing. That I think I would be far worse as a 3D printer, as in I would be using it much more if it was much quicker. You know, if it was like I want to say like what's the word in Star Trek, where it just kind of a sudden.
Oh yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, I can't remember the word now, but
I think that would change the way that we lived if everything was just on tap immediately.
Yes.
And what would it be like if we had a food kind of creator? Replicator, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, that
Earl Grey, hot.
Yes. Would we get better meaning out of life if everything can be replicated? I know there's a whole kind of change of the economy and stance and what is value. You know, everything changes its value if everything can be replicated. But it would be interesting of where would we find our worth if everything was accessible at a moment's notice. But shall we wrap up this subject for now? But shall we move over to the Geeky Gallery? And folks, just please feel free to comment or otherwise, or message, or kind of have a chat in the Discord. And the details for the Discord is in the blurb, or where you've seen us, heard us, or otherwise. But let us move on to the Geeky Gallery, which is a few pages. I better get rid of this banner. There's a few pages this evening because we've been off for half term, as it were, even though we had Epoch last week. So we have got certain things. So Specky Geek is showing off his, I've forgotten already.
Oh, those are those are Tyranids.
Fantastic. So they kind of started working on those last time that we kind of gathered, and so they look pretty phenomenal there. Tim Annan has got some new books. We should say that we're thinking of Tim. He's recovering from surgery and otherwise, so he's got plenty of reading matter. And if you follow him on socials, he's been sharing some of that, the joys and the highs and lows and other ways in between. But I think we are not quite done with Tim's comments. I think there's a couple more to come. Mendip, yourself with sour beer and another treat, a peach cobbler.
Peach cobbler sour beer, alcohol-free sour beer. So I do during the week try and stick to drinking alcohol-free beer during the week. But I have a thing for sour beers, and found an alcohol-free one, so it's very nice.
Very good. Holly Moose bought a gorgeous copy of The Hobbit in German for a friend, Der Hobbit. Pronunciation as you wish. So yes, it looks fantastic, and that kind of very almost Nordic feel.
Well, so it's doubly geeky because it's illustrated by Tove Jansson.
Is that Moomins?
There's the Moomins. That's it's Moomin Hobbit, which is great. I have to say, without no GDPR was breached, but I did send a copy of just that picture to my mum, who is both a Tolkien fan and a Moomin fan, and said, "I saw this, Mum, and I thought of you," because that's just beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, it looks very cool. It's such a style, such a fantastic
absolutely.
style. Purple Plushie has put Favourite Shop's got the latest volume of Yona of the Dawn. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that. French comics, graphic novels, including gorgeous adaptation of Frankenstein. Some fantastic pictures here, and again, lovely styles.
Really nice.
Yeah, it's very good. A little comment from me is that I went to see The Mandalorian and Grogu. No spoilers. I thought it felt like an extension of the series. I felt as if there were some good characters. There were some good characters in it, but it felt as if it could easily have been 3 specials stitched together, or 3 episodes stitched together. It felt as if there were 3 chapters, and it felt as if it was just a bit lacking to be a movie. But this is, I would say, a Disney Star Wars attempt at, or giving it a good go of doing Star Wars movies on a budget. I think actually it felt quite enjoyable. I enjoyed it. I was glad that I went to go and see it at the cinema. It did feel, the opening credits did feel a bit like Star Wars does Top Gun.
Interesting.
I was half expecting, rather than kind of the Mandalorian music to be bow, 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 you know, and because it had like kind of various X-wings taken off with the sun kind of just shimmying in the background. It felt very Top Gun-esque. You know.
Okay.
But anyway, that was fun. And more comments from yourself, Mendip. So painting and what are they called? Go for it.
So this is stuff to do with my Chaos Space Marines. There's some, there's a variety of different, and my chapter, my Renegade chapter that I run is a mix of kind of ghostly models and mortal models. So that's a mix of the ghostly green ones and some mortals being painted up. I was determined that I would have no model on the table for my very last game that was entirely still grey plastic. So they weren't all fully painted, but there was nothing on the table that was just totally grey plastic. Everything had paint on it. So that felt good.
Fantastic. And then more from your actual game itself.
Yeah, which was good. It was great. I mean, there's a whole bunch of text there as well, but I won't go into that. 13 games, just over 6 months. It's all been great. And it was a nice touch that in the end, my final game was against the guy that I played in my very first game. So it was a nice rounding out for my campaign. Already starting to look forward to the next one that will start in late August. So
is this just like the end of the season then? Is this what this?
Yeah, it's it's end of a season, end of a campaign. So I will start the next in late August. We'll start again, and we'll all start with fresh armies, back to zero, back to only 1,000 points, and build again from there. So I'll be running the same army in the sense that I won't change faction. But I'm going to run this time. I was running Dreadnought Robot Heavy. Next time, I think I'm going for mechanized infantry. So kind of transport tanks and lots of infantry for the next one, just to be a bit different again. So looking forward to that.
Fantastic. And Specky Geek had been at the UK Games Expo. Oh, I saw lots of this on social media.
Yeah, I was very jealous.
A little bit, missed out from that. So that was a little bit of a shame, but it looks as if it'd been a lot of fun. And Specky Geek had kind of got some couple of games and bits and pieces, including something called Wispwood. I don't know whether that's artwork or a game behind it, but it looks
I'm
fun.
not sure, but it looks great. And again, one of the things I found going to events like that is just the variety of styles. Some really amazing styles, stuff that I would happily buy even if I never played, just because I love the artwork. It's just brilliant.
Just using some plastic sheets and a bit of card with corrugated cardboard shims for depth, a factory elevation for the Japanese tram case layout. So for those who were at Greenbelt, I think that was the continuation of the box and otherwise. And then some pictures for myself from Legoland Windsor, which had been combining some of my interests. So Lego chickens, Lego TARDIS, Lego church, Lego castles, Lego ducks and otters, and Lego Sphinx. So just kind of been a fun time away. And then Tim has got some of he's been reading the new D&D book Ravenloft, The Horrors Within, which I think is again some more new subclasses and otherwise, or continuation of the 5.5e. And then Andy has been shown about his large models, Imperial Knight Army. Enjoying starting with this big, and this looks I don't know the size of this thing. This is a big cruiser, but that looks a big.
It is. So that model is it's 32 mil, 25 to 32 mil scale, but that is, if you imagine that. So the standard infantry would be 32 mil, so about 3 centimeters tall, and that thing towers above that. So you're talking maybe a foot high, something like that. They are big models.
Fantastic.
I've got a few of them. They are substantial boys. But it's an interesting painting challenge, because it's a very different painting challenge to painting the 32 mil.
It's a much bigger surface, I imagine. Therefore, you've got to be a bit more careful of, because you're always careful of that kind of dead space in bigger pictures.
Absolutely.
Bigger dead space on bigger models, I guess. So you have to.
Yeah, which means that it gives you space to do stuff, but it also gives you space where you kind of have to do stuff, because otherwise it just becomes very bland. So interesting.
Very interesting. And that is the end of the Geeky Gallery. And we are running at 9:05, so we've run over time a little bit. But thank you, Tom, for joining us tonight.
Good to be here as always.
Yeah, and hope it's been an interesting conversation about 3D printing.
Yeah, I hope so. I've enjoyed it.
Jolly good. Glad somebody has. No, no, but I think it's one of those things of where, feel free that if you're joining us on the Discord, feel free to ask questions, and we might have some level of expertise. Not sure if not, but to converse, talk about it. But I do enjoy it, and I love just that ability to tinker, and I've rediscovered that tinkering, especially through my son's eyes as well. So bless you. Thank you, Tom, for joining us, and thank you everyone for coming along, listening, and otherwise remember to be part of our Discord or follow us on our socials. And until next time, geek safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.